life practice community.
All right. So welcome to our yin practice. Let's come into a seated shape. I don't think you need any props today other than maybe a pillow. Where's my bolster? Oh yeah, I was sitting on it all week on the computer. I'll just take one of these pillows. Just bring yourself into a comfortable shape. And just take a minute to sense what is going through your body. Going through your mind. What's going on with your energy. I'm feeling a little all over the place this week as I kind of got unsettled with my routines. Staying up until 4 a.m. doing this coaching course and then not really having any yoga. And I just ate a brownie. So all these things are making me feel a little more up in my head than down in my heart and my torso. I had a very wise teacher, and he said that we don't want to live our lives numb to the world. We want to feel highs and lows. And we meditate to bring us back to equilibrium, to bring us back to the middle. This isn't my teacher, Rolf, who I always talk about. It's a different one, Everett. Anyway, so we're going to start here with deepening our breath. And then use that intention of deepening our breath to bring us closer to equilibrium, closer to balance. So generally what you want to do with your breath is breathe into the heart. And see if you can make your breath even and filling. And it might even help if you're saying inhaling here. And exhaling now. And so you're welcome to set an intention for your practice. I'm working with a theme. We're going to be learning about a concept called samskaras. And samskaras are the emotional imprints that we place on events in our lives. So perhaps you're interested in this intention, which is going to revolve around it all being a story. Which I'll explain more as I go. Or if you're like, I'm not really interested in that, then your intention can be something else. I'm here now, I'm present, I'm building my flexibility, I'm calming down, whatever. No right or wrong. So decide what works for you. And take one more breath. And we're going to invite in a little bit of movement. So take an inhale and we'll just sweep the arms up towards the sky. We're going to move a little bit before we get settled. And then land one fingertip, your right hand. How about your right fingertips? And then breathe in, lengthen through your left arm. And then reach it over towards the right. I just saw my other camera is still on. I don't need to. Stay there for a couple of breaths, breathing into the left side body. And then let's inhale, come all the way up through center. And then land your left hand and reach your right arm over. Let's inhale both arms up towards the sky. And then we're going to take it into a twist. So land your left palm on your right thigh, land your right fingertips behind you, take an inhale, and then we'll twist over the right shoulder. And then breathe all the way back up through center. And then let's twist the opposite way. Coming all the way back up, reaching both arms up towards the sky. And then take your palms into your heart center one more time. And then we're going to come onto the hands and knees. If you have a pillow, it can just slide to the side. And then we'll move through some cat-cow. So on your breath in, you're going to tilt and lift your chin. And then on your exhale, you're going to curl the spine and tuck the chin. And then keep moving with your breath. So we're going to move into kind of a hip-oriented sequence. Stretching into the hips, which is kind of an area of the body that's a favorite of mine. We hold a lot of our tension here. Let's take one more cat-cow. And then come all the way into neutral. And then can you take your knees a little bit wide, toes to touch together, and then just sit your hips back and rest your forehead, and we'll come into our first yin style pose. Supporting yourself in any way that would feel good. We recently did this thing in the Mindful Life Practice WhatsApp group, which I think all of you are in, where people were posting their least favorite yoga poses. And a lot of people don't like child's pose, which shocked me because it's one of my favorites. So support yourself however you need. If you want pillows, propped underneath your heels, anything that will make this sustainable for about 3 minutes total. So what are samskaras? Samskaras are kind of like the emotional residue that's left behind with us after very emotional experiences. People often will say things like, it's all a story, or it's all like a narrative. And that's kind of what the concept of samskaras is about. Right? Things happen to us and we have an emotional response, but the story that we carry around with us afterwards, that is the samskara, that's the emotional residue, the story. We're going to take a few more rounds of breath in our child's pose, so just like a minute more. And then slowly roll all the way up to seated. So you can sit on the heels for a moment. Just allowing the spine to neutralize and maybe just feeling that sensation in the body. And then we're going to come forward. We're going to take just one down dog. So tucking the toes, lifting the hips up and back for one down dog. We're just going to use it as a transition pose. Then let's walk our feet all the way up to the hands. And then the next pose we're going to come into is a waterfall. So a forward fold, a dangle. And you can decide what to do with your arms. You can let the palms land. You can grip opposite elbows. Your choice. Just see if you can tuck the head, really let go. So I think I've shared with a lot of you, or almost all of you, that I've been working on writing a memoir. And this week in my life coaching course, and I was reviewing some notes from a yoga teacher training I went on, and I kind of had a really large epiphany around all of it. Like, a lot of bad and challenging things happened to me during a period of time in my life. But there's a lot of samskaras, like there's a lot of emotional residue around all of it that I've carried with me. And a lot of it is like a story that I've written in my head about what happened. And when you really come to think about it, you realize that no one in the story really is a villain, right? Most people that cause us trouble or problems in our lives, they're not there because they want to hurt us. They're not there because they on purpose want to ruin our lives. Right? They're stuck in their own story, their own suffering. In my case, we were all stuck in the same sad situation. And we were all trying to cope with it as best we could. Right? It's all just a story. It's all these samskaras, and no one is a villain. Right? All these people that I've villainized in my head for the bad things that they did to me, they're not villains. They were just trying to kind of cope with life the best way that they could, and it negatively impacted me. Anyway, I kind of had this epiphany, and I remembered this lesson my yoga teacher taught me on samskaras, and it kind of led me all the way back to this realization. Right? When we're able to realize that everyone is just a human at the end of the day, maybe we can develop a bit more empathy for them. Just take a few more breaths in this forward fold. I feel like I've kept you here forever. My apologies. Now, can we slowly roll up one vertebrae at a time? Eventually coming all the way up to stand. And then just relaxing the shoulders down. And then let's let this be our counter pose, just standing in Tadasana. Taking one more round of breath. And we'll carry on with our hip opening. So we're going to come back to the ground. And we're going to come into a butterfly pose. And if you want to be up on a pillow, go ahead. You're going to bring your soles together and your knees will drop apart. And then you can decide if you want to keep your spine straight up or if you want to kind of curl it forward. And what might be nice as well is propping up your forehead. Like on a block or a pillow. So I want to tell you one particular story from my time in Kuwait. So I worked at a school where there were a lot of issues, and one of those issues was theft. And I walked into my classroom one day and I caught my assistant teacher stealing from me. And then I reported this incident to my boss, and my boss questioned whether it had actually happened. and belittled me and referred me to a high school counselor. And for a long time, I had a lot of anger. I was angry at the person who stole from me. I was angry at my boss who ignored my concerns. And it's taken me a really long time to come to this realization that neither of those people were bad people. Right? My assistant who I caught stealing from me, usually people don't steal unless they really need it. Right? This guy wasn't making enough money to survive in Kuwait. And if you want to stop theft, you should share the wealth around. And my boss wasn't a bad person either. There were a lot of problems at that school, too many problems to manage. And he was just doing the best he could to kind of keep the school running. Right? He was not there on purpose to make me have a bad experience in Kuwait, and that assistant was not on purpose trying to hurt me either. They were both just trying to navigate through the world as best they could. And I came to realize that everything that happened to me on that day, it was all a story. Right? It was a story that I then wrote in my head and carried with me, that these two people were villains. When really there's no such thing, right? No one is all bad, no one is all good, we're all a mix. And I could be a villain in someone else's story. Not even know about it, right? Because that's the story in their head.
Take a few more rounds of breath. And then let's slowly roll up to seated. And then we're gonna bring our legs to close and just do a really simple twist to counter this. So you can turn to one side, the right or the left, it doesn't really matter, just stay for a few breaths. Then we'll rotate the other way. And come all the way back. And just open one leg, so maybe the left leg, and we'll keep the right foot on the inside of the left leg. And then we're gonna fold forward, just kind of in the center line of the body. So this is a half butterfly. And again, if you wanna prop up your forehead with a block, go ahead. We're gonna do this one for 3 minutes as well. So I wanna give you another example. During the beginning of my second year at this same school, they actually asked me to film a recruitment video. They wanted a happy, young, single woman to make a video about how happy she was at the school. And then they were sending it out to recruit new teachers. And at the time that they asked me to film this video, like, I don't know what was going through my head. I have no idea. But I made this video where I talked about how going to this school was the best decision I ever made. Like, there's literally a quote of me saying that in the video. And I was 24 at the time, and you know, I had never left Canada before, or not never left. I had done some small trips, but you know, I think I was maybe high on the fact that, you know, I had come to the Middle East and I got to go to Egypt and Jordan and Lebanon and India and all these amazing places that I never would have seen before had I not left home. And I think in retrospect, really what I meant to say was going abroad is the best decision I ever made, not coming to this school was the best decision I ever made. You see the difference? Anyway, I filmed this video, which they are still using to recruit teachers to this day. And I met someone recently who saw that video, and that was the reason she chose the school. And when she met me, she said, "Oh my God, you are the reason that I felt like I was catfished." She called me a catfish. And I mean, she laughed about it and it was all fine. Like, she wasn't blaming it on me. But I realized that, you know, I could be the villain in a lot of people's story. A lot of people who have seen that video and then they show up at the school and they're like, what the heck? This is not what that blonde girl from Canada said it was going to be like. Right? I could be the villain in their story. Hundreds of people that I don't even know. Let's take one more round of breath here. And then we're gonna slowly roll up and then switch to the other side. So your left foot comes into the inside of your right leg, and then you extend the leg. And then we'll just take a breath in. Again, 3 minutes on this side, rolling forward. So anyway, the point of that story is that I realized that lots of people do things without ill intentions. Right? Like I can think of times that I've broken the rules. I have sped down the road. One night when I was drinking, I stole a poster of Meghan Markle, which I still have in the kitchen. Right? That belonged to someone. I took that from that person. And I've said things that I've later regretted, like making a video saying that moving to Kuwait was the best decision I ever made. and these things impact other people, but it's not our responsibility, the story that they tell around it. We are only responsible for the stories that we tell around our life experiences. And I'm only responsible for the villains in my story, if that makes sense. So maybe as we're here, maybe there's other connections or other moments you can think of where you've kind of had an emotional story around something that impacted you. And maybe you've created in your head a story around someone that you can see as just a story. Stay here for 2 more minutes. take a few more breaths. And then we have 2 more hip opening poses. So slowly come all the way up. We can uncross the legs. And so the next pose that we're going to take is fire log pose. So you're going to lay your left shin across the width of your mat. And then cross your right ankle on top. And so the most common mistaken thing I see is the foot is too far to one side, either in or out, and you want it to be like stacked above. And it's okay if they're not directly stacking. Like you'll see my knee is, there's a lot of space. That's because my hip is a little tight. So one thing you could do is like put a block, or if you're okay with that knee floating there, just float it there. Now I'm gonna spare you guys tremendous pain. We're just gonna do 2 minutes. If this is painful, by the way, if it's just discomfort, stick with the discomfort. If it is painful, go into a variation of pigeon. You guys are all regulars. You all know the pigeon variations. But if you're okay like this, we'll stay. And one option is to walk your hands forward. So I posted a song, or it's a meditation on Instagram last night. It's a meditation by Ram Dass. And the meditation is about loving everyone and telling the truth. And he talks about when he traveled to India and a guru told him to love everyone. And he said, I can't. It's so hard. I have all these judgments. And the guru said the key to happiness is to love everyone. And isn't that the truth? Right, as soon as I was able to flip my entire Kuwait experience on its head and realize that at the end of the day, everyone was just doing their best and no one was there to try and on purpose make me unhappy. Right, it was like the key to making peace with it all. No one was on purpose trying to hurt me. They were all just doing the best they could, given their life experience, given the situation. And being able to love everyone while also telling the truth is the key. Here she comes, the star of the show. Take a few more breaths. She must want her dinner. Forgot to feed her. Let's come all the way up, and then we'll switch it up. So laying your right shin across the mat and then stacking your left ankle. And then either staying upright or or just shifting forward. Just stay here for a few more breaths. We're almost done. And then slowly come all the way up. And then just plant your feet. And we'll rock the knees from side to side. And then we're going to come into a gentle little inversion before we take our Shavasana. So if you're not near a wall, you can just lay down and bring your feet up. We're only going to be here for about 2 minutes. And if you are near a wall, you might scoot your bottom up near the wall. Resting your feet. After my 2 years in Kuwait, I ended up quitting my job and getting on a plane to Bali. And after spending about 6 weeks in Bali, just kind of taking care of myself, I wrote some reflections on my time there, the lessons I learned about life. I wrote, live soulfully, meaningfully, presently, and authentically. Inhale and then exhale, fully and consciously. Participate in the world the way it is, as opposed to separating from it. And know that the darkest part of the night, it's right before the dawn. Refuse to let loss define your relationships. Learn how to sit with loneliness. Invest in good peanut butter, eat it on banana every day. You don't choose the moment you live or die. All you can do is choose what happens between your first and last breath. Live soulfully, meaningfully. Realize each breath you have left is precious. Surrender to the process of life and death. There is no guru. You are the guru. Sometimes all you need is the science of yoga, and sometimes what you need is specifically the science of modern medicine. And know yourself well enough to know the difference. Don't let anyone else tell you how to heal. It's okay to get swept under waves of grief. Come up for air when you can, grab hold of the buoy. Cling to the buoy as you watch waves of grief wash around you. Resist being carried by them through the rest of your life. And the last thing was to follow your soul. Always, always. And in doing this from time to time, you'll let other people down. Release yourself from the guilt you harbor from this. If you want to leave and you're following your soul, you have my support. Because your soul, it's more important than my selfishness. The last one is just don't preach. Let people believe what they want. Be the living embodiment, and that's how you share what you've learned. If you're happy staying with legs up the wall, stay here. And if you want to stretch out into a final resting pose or a seated meditation, go ahead. I think I kept you there way longer than 2 minutes. My apologies. Someone said the other day that whenever I start telling a story, they always get worried. We'll be here for a few minutes and know that I'll bring you back when the time is up. Please prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving. I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Please prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving. I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Give your fingers and your toes a little wiggle. If you're already in seated, just stay in seated. If you're on your back, stretch all the way out. You can take your knees into your chest, give your body a nice little hug. And then we'll slowly, slowly make our way up to seated. Coming into crisscross, hands at heart center. And we close with an intention. It's an ancient intention, but it's the original intention passed from the heart of my teacher. I pass it to you. And it's that our practice remains steady, our efforts remain continuous, our yoga serves and benefits all beings everywhere. May all beings be safe, be happy, healthy, and free. And may the thoughts and actions of each of our lives contribute towards this. So let's finish with an Om. Inhaling, exhaling, and inhaling through to make the Om. So a large breath in. Emptying breath out. Big breath in. Thank you so much for sharing the space and the practice. I've seen a lot of you every day for 5 months, more or less. 6 months. It was really weird to take a week off. I missed you. I'm so happy to see you again. Have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, wherever you are. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace. Namaste. Thank you guys for joining. Fun.